Hi everyone, Aiden here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at these Titan Chain assisted tensioning snow tire chains on our 2022 Toyota 4Runner. We're going to see later how they install, and we're going to be installing them on our rear axle per our owner's manual. In addition to that, these are on tire size 265, 70, R17. The chains are designed to fit a wide range of different tire sizes, but if you've got a different tire size than us, I encourage you to still plug your vehicle information into our fit guide so that you can find the right kit for you. But if you want to learn more about these, follow along and let's get started. Now these are going to be a diamond pattern chain, and really what that translates to is better traction when you're taking turns. It's also going to give you more consistent contact from the chain to the ground and result in a less bumpy ride quality compared to something like a ladder pattern chain, where the links are going in a ladder shape in parallel lines across the tire. That's going to give you better traction on starts and stops, but because it goes in those lines, it's going to be a bit bumpier as you're rolling over it. So they each have their own strengths or weaknesses there, but generally I like to recommend diamond pattern. Now, taking a bit closer look at the individual link shape though, these are going to be a square shaped link. You can see that on the edges where we've got these hard edges, and that's going to just result in a bit more of an aggressive chain, especially when we look at the larger link size here. When you pair those two facts together, this is going to make it an excellent option to, one, break up ice with those hard edges, but get you through some deeper snow conditions or some icier conditions because those link sizes are larger. It's just going to be a more aggressive chain. So if you find yourself in a little bit more than moderate snow and ice conditions, where it's getting a little bit more intense, this is probably a great option for you. Now these are going to be an assisted tensioning chain, and what that means is you've got the tensioning device built in. That's going to be this arm that feeds through some links and pulls slack out of the chain. With a more manual style chain, you usually have to pick up a tensioner separately, and we do always recommend using a tensioner because it ensures a good tight fit on your tire. So by having it integrated, it's going to just cut out one extra piece you need to buy, and it ensures that you never forget it. Now, when you're looking at this one, being an assisted tensioning chain, that just means you have to put a little bit more manual force to tighten it up. We do have this cord here that stretches out and pulls a bit of tension, so if the chain settles, that will take up some of that slack that maybe appears, but it can only do so much. Self-tensioning chains are the ones that will pretty much pull all that slack out. You know, they've got a little bit more pull to them, so as the chains settle, they'll adjust a bit more properly. With this, as the chain settles, when you first put them on the tire, you'll probably have to hop out of the car, retighten them, and then you'll be ready to hit the road. So it's a pretty small difference between assisted tensioning and self-tensioning. What I always tell people is this gets the job done just fine, and it's going to be better than the vast majority of chains, but self-tensioning is that last little bit if you're looking to upgrade. As far as construction goes, all around the wheel and in front of the wheel, you're going to see coated chains. That's going to make sure that you don't have to touch any bare metal in those colder conditions. And for the parts that maybe pass in front of your wheel, like the assisted tensioning arm there, it ensures that if we, say, like drift into a bit of snow and force the chain in a bit and it touches the wheel, it's not metal on metal contact that would scratch up our wheel. The other thing you'll notice is that a lot of these touch points are color coded, so as you're going to hook it up, if you don't have as good of visibility, it just makes things easier to see and not get mixed up whenever you're attaching it. Overall construction for the chain though is going to be a manganese nickel alloy steel. What that boils down to though is a higher corrosion resistance when compared to low carbon steel. So if you plan on using this with your 4Runner for many seasons, then I would always recommend some sort of alloy like this because it's going to last longer. With your kit, you're going to get another chain for the other side and a carrying case that can hold those two chains and keep them in separate compartments here so they're less likely to get tangled up with one another. The carrying case is really good quality. It zips up and it has this sort of soft shell form. So it makes it very easy to store in your 4Runner between uses. So if you live in a state that requires you have chains, they're always on hand when you need them. And if you decided that these are the right fit for you and you want to see how they install, just follow along and we'll show you how we did it. We're going to start the installation off by laying our chains out and making sure that nothing's tangled up or we don't have any damaged links. More often than not though, straight out of the packaging, something will be a little bit tangled up, so we just want to make sure it's sorted before we try to put it on the tire. Once we've got it all laid out though, you can make sure you've got things in the proper orientation. And you can do that by looking towards the back where we're going to have this coated cable. And on those cables is going to be these end links. It's just basically the portion where the main chain connects to that cable. These end links will have a smoother side, which we have facing up right now, and a more hooked side that we want face down. That's because whenever we attach this, that smooth side we want to be touching the tire, so that's why it's facing up right now. But from there, you can take your chain and start to feed it around behind the back of the tire. I'm going to opt to feed the end that doesn't have our tensioning arm behind just because there's less to get tangled up there, pushing it by the cable until it starts to peek around the other side and we can pull it all to the front. Make sure that as you pushed it back, nothing got tangled up. And just do that by pulling everything forward. And when you're happy with how all that looks, we can start to grab each end of that cable we saw earlier, bring it up into our wheel well, and make our first connection. That's going to be with these studs and this catch plate, just by linking the two together and pulling tight. Don't let go quite yet. Make your other top connection first, which is going to be this green hook to these free links here. You can go to any one of these free links. I'm going to start with the loosest one first. And if we decide that for our tire we need a tighter fit, we can always go to one of these inner ones later. But then we can just push this all back and get things centered up on our tire, making sure everything's nice and even, nothing's twisted up. And when we're happy with that, we can turn our attention to the bottom. That's going to be where we have our final connection to make. That tensioning arm will feed through this red catch plate and kind of pull tight. And we can feed it through these red loops. It's a pretty snug fit there just because this is a beefier chain, so the tensioning arm is a little bit more stout as well. I'll try to feed it through both, and when I do, I'll see if I can pull it across, which, yeah, no, that's a little bit too tight. So I'm going to just skip that last one because we want to be able to pull it across and hook it to the end over here. It's going to be a pretty tight fit, but if we can get that connected, that'll pull a lot of that slack out of the chain. There we go. Now, that's a little bit tighter than I would expect, and that's partially probably because things just haven't settled onto the tire yet. So what I'd recommend doing is at this point, installing them on the other side to the best of your ability, driving forward a little bit, and making sure that everything's settled in properly. We'll probably have to retighten it just a little bit because as the tire moves, so will the chain. But once you've done that, you're ready to hit the road. And that'll do it for a look at and installation of these Titan Chain assisted tensioning tire chains on our 2022 Toyota 4Runner. My name's Aiden, and thank you for watching.